There was a report this week from Fightful about Samoa Joe's availability, that his commitments to Twisted Metal Press might take him away for a little bit. Can you speak on that?
It never came to that, but I think thankfully he was available and he's here. And Samoa Joe is one of the greatest wrestlers in Ring of Honor history, the inaugural Hall of Fame class, and dominant TV champion, undefeated in this new iteration of Ring of Honor. And I thought it was a great match tonight, so I was just really happy he was here. And we're very fortunate to have Samoa Joe in ROH and AEW. He's also been a huge part of the AEW Collision launch, and he's been a great champion in AEW really for the past year plus. He's a great TNT champion, and I think he's just the king of television. So I was just really glad he was here. He's awesome both in the ring and backstage. Samoa Joe is really a leader, I think, backstage and certainly in the ring.
Corey Lee with the Wrestling Observer. Do we have any preliminary buys for Honor Club for this show in regards to any type of estimate?
I know the preliminary buys before the show were good. I was really checking to make sure everybody came out. It was a very hard-hitting physical show. Thankfully, everyone was okay, the champions and the challengers, and everyone in all the great matches. So very awesome to have such a hard-hitting and memorable show where everybody got out okay. I'm not sure on the buys, but I think it did well. And for ROH, it's a different expectation than it is for AEW. And bear in mind, I think this will end up being one of the most successful shows in the history of ROH. But a large percentage of the most successful shows in ROH's 21-plus year history have been in the past year plus that I've been owning and running and presenting the company. And I think that's come from having a great roster with AEW and also great relationships in wrestling we've been able to tap into, including stuff that Ring of Honor has done well in the past, including like featuring top stars from New Japan Pro Wrestling, featuring some top women stars, but I think we took it to another level with one of the best main events in ROH and one of the best pay-per-views. And, certainly, like I said, top stars from New Japan, some top women wrestlers, and lucha stars. And we've got different affiliations in some ways, but I think overall, similar to AEW, this is a place for all great wrestlers. Very open-minded and optimistic about it.
The other question I had, at least about the difficulty, you mentioned a little bit earlier about the difficulty of putting this card together. We have the Eddie Kingston situation, and then obviously the Mark Briscoe situation where his knee was just not in enough condition for him to wrestle Claudio on the show. Has this helped you in regards to your able to kind of think on the fly in regards to the matches, and then with everything that's gone on with this card, Williams's new, obviously things coming out of this in regards to, I actually did notice that Claudio and Orange kind of had a little bit of a stare down at the end there. I want to see if that's kind of where you're going in regards to the next program with Claudio coming out of this.
Well, certainly it was a big altercation at the end. It was great to have Claudio versus Pac, but then that meant the BCC and the Death Triangle got involved. We saw earlier in the night in the four-way tag, the Lucha Brothers really had it out with the Best Friends, and that continued. And when the Best Friends showed up, I think the crowd was very surprised to see the AEW International Champion Orange Cassidy run out. And there's some interesting things involving all of these people on Dynamite. We've got the International Champion Orange Cassidy defending the title against AR Fox, who had a tremendous match that really got the crowd going on the 0 Hour versus Shane Taylor, who was a great former ROH World Television Champion. And AR Fox versus Orange Cassidy, I think, will be a very, very good match and very exciting title defense on Wednesday. And it was really good to hear a little bit more on AR Fox's background from Darby. Great to see AR Fox have a great match tonight. I think that'll be tremendous. I'm really excited about the three-way tag match, Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli versus the Best Friends versus the Lucha Brothers, which I think came to me and I felt like we really wanted to see after that altercation. I had to put that one together for the fans on Wednesday as we're approaching 200 episodes of Dynamite. Great on episode 199, I think, to have a big match announced like that tonight with Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli, two of the big stars ever in AEW, and two great members of the BCC BCC versus two members of the Death Triangle, the Lucha Brothers and the Best Friends. So certainly Orange getting involved, and then don't forget that on Wednesday, Pat will be wrestling a man who may have forgotten it, Gravity. Pat goes Gravity should be great too, and I thought Gravity, real star-making performance on pay-per-view in the opener versus Commander. Gravity is the brother of former ROH World Champion Bandito, and he's had some excellent matches. I thought, in particular, on Honor Club, a great match with Ray Phoenix several weeks ago, a great opener. Gravity versus Commander, a great history of Lucha Libre. Just had great World Tag Team Champions with the Lucha Brothers, and of course, I thought it was awesome to have a great Lucha opener with Gravity versus Commander, and I think Gravity versus Pac would be a great match. So it was great to get all those people involved in a story, and we saw some top stars from AEW involved in ROH, which we see from time to time. Hey, would you have a follow-up?
No, my follow-up was the Pat Gravity match.
Yeah, that was it.
I was gonna say you're booking a big grudge match there with Pat going against the guy that forgot him.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. And I think a lot of people were calling for it when they saw Gravity versus Phoenix, who's in Pac's stable, but Gravity really stepped up tonight with a huge win over Commander. And Commander's been excellent in AEW and Ring of Honor too. He's picked up some big wins and then some great matches against some of the top stars in both companies. Big fan of both guys, Commander and Gravity. Should be a great match, Gravity versus Pac. So a lot of exciting things happening involving some of the people you saw tonight in ROH on AEW Dynamite. And going to also have some exciting stuff involving people you saw tonight, tomorrow on AEW Collision on TNT, which I think is going to be an awesome, awesome show. And we saw Action and Darius picking up a great win, and I think Action and Reddy and Darius will be tremendous opponents for Jay White and Juice Robinson, who really have been on an amazing, amazing role. I think Jay White and Juice Robinson have really been just great TV stars, and I think tonight we saw Darius in action had a great match with the Workhorsemen, so I'm excited for that. And Collision tomorrow should be a great Collision tomorrow.
Hi Tony, Kimmy Sokol with the Pop Break. So since Collision has started, you have been content with taping Ring of Honor before and after Collision. But before Collision started, you were taping it in Orlando in the TV studio. Are you looking to possibly go back to Orlando in the near future, or are you just set on recording before and after Collision?
I'm very open to utilizing a studio tapings, but I think there's a lot of benefits to having the ROH crew traveling with the Collision crew. You're seeing people get opportunities like the really rising stars. Action Andretti is somebody that's very dangerous. We've seen Action Andretti beat Chris Jericho, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, on Wednesday Night Dynamite. We've seen Darius pick up huge wins along the way with Top Flight, including the $300,000 Three Kings Casino Trios Royale, where they beat John Moxley and Claudio and Yuta, the BCC, and a lot of the top stars. And so Top Flight, the Young Bucks on Dynamite, definitely. When you have great stars like that on ROH, they can get involved on Collision, and it really helps everybody. But I think it's, for the most part, at Collision, I'm focused on that show, but I also have this great crew that I am very focused on ROH in terms of like week to week to week, long-term storytelling. And on this pay-per-view, you saw firsthand that like you can have long-term ideas that you think out really far in advance, but things can change them. And it's all kinds of different things. Like with Eddie, I made a choice. I think I wanted to let Eddie go to Japan, even if it meant changing some of the things that I originally was going to do in the show. And with Mark, it was an injury. There was no way to avoid it. With Willow and Athena, like we were saying, I wanted to announce Athena and Willow maybe a week sooner, but it was for the best to make sure Willow was okay when she got back, and it ended up being a great main event. And a lot of positive changes too, but definitely a lot of things came together late. So yeah, I think as we look at it, I think I'd be open to going back there, but I definitely really like doing it at Collision. I think there's a lot of veteran stars, and when you have some top names that could appear in both, I think that's great. But Collision's been a huge success for us, and I think everything we've done about it has been really great so far. So I probably wouldn't change much, because I think Saturdays have gone really, really well, and that part of that has been shooting the ROH shows and having a mix of veterans and young stars around Collision, which is also a great mix of veterans and young stars. Thanks.
John Applefy. Tony, you said before that there are different expectations for Ring of Honor versus AEW, and that was in reference to the pay-per-view buys. I understand that, but it got me thinking, now that we're a year into this here, based on the pay-per-view a year ago, what are your expectations for this brand? And saying this bluntly, but not in a negative sense necessarily, what is the point of Ring of Honor in the grand sphere of all this wrestling that's going on?
Ring of Honor is a great wrestling promotion. It's got a different mission, it's got a different audience than AEW. It's maybe more focused to a hardcore audience, and I can do things programmed to the hardcores and deliver the kind of wrestling that I know a hardcore fan is going to want to see. I think AEW speaks to a broader, definitely bigger and broader worldwide audience. Ring of Honor has a great 21-year history and was at one point, in my opinion, the #2 wrestling company in North America, if not the world. And when AEW launched, it changed things. AEW is a bigger challenger brand than there's been in pro wrestling since the 90s. And it's been a long time since there was a company like AEW that changed where Ring of Honor stood, but now Ring of Honor is back, and I think Ring of Honor is still a major company. It's not the #2 company in the world, but I think there's a clear two biggest companies, certainly in North America and worldwide. But really, I don't think Ring of Honor has ever been more influential or powerful or well-backed. I think these have been some of the best pay-per-view shows in the history of Ring of Honor over 21 years. And now, looking back, we've done 5 pay-per-views since I took over, and I really think they've been 5 of the best shows Ring of Honor's ever done on pay-per-view, and I stand by it. There's probably 5 of the 10 biggest live attendance and 5 of the 10 biggest pay-per-views of all time. So in 21-year history, I think to do that, just what we've done in a little over a year has been amazing. And it's also given young wrestlers a place to work, veteran wrestlers, it's given more opportunities. It helps build stories across wrestling for AEW, but also for our partners in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and we can bring in great lucha stars, and it's definitely had an impact on our AEW shows, and I think it's really great that Ring of Honor is back, and that was what I wanted to do. I didn't want the promotion to disappear, because there's a lot of Ring of Honor fans, and the success of AEW probably changed the course of where Ring of Honor was going to go as a pro wrestling company. But I'm very glad to be the owner of Ring of Honor, and I enjoy booking Ring of Honor, I enjoy booking AEW. They're different things to a different audience in some ways, and I have different expectations, and there's different business expectations. But they're both great, and I think they exist very well, and I think they're very complementary. I also think the relationships we have in New Japan Pro Wrestling, Lucha Libre, and other international and domestic wrestling promotions can also be very complementary. But certainly, AEW and ROH work really well together. ROH has a great history with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and now AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling, I think, is the most important and successful wrestling partnership.
Hi, I'm Sheila Knight from Women's Wrestling Talk. You've said a lot about, the emotions that you'd like to work with, that you have worked with. I guess in the grand scheme of things, maybe backing off of John's question a little bit, how are you keeping Ring of Honor fresh? How do you keep it fresh on the creative, right? And again, there's right now we see still a lot of crossover from AEW, obviously. So what are your plans to keep it fresh? If you can give us anything specifically, if you can.
Sure. Well, I think it involves bringing in different stars. There's some international stars that have competed on Ring of Honor. Some that have crossed over. Willow's competed in New Japan, Ring of Honor, and AEW. Shibata-san has also competed in all 3. They come from different backgrounds, and both of them have fought tonight in great championship matches on this great pay-per-view. So I think with Ring of Honor, we bring in people from all over. There's nuanced differences, but I think it's a great question, like what specifically are they? So for some things, I think the TV shows have different time constraints, and there's just different benefits to doing things in Ring of Honor that aren't necessarily about like minute-by-minute TV ratings. There aren't necessarily commercial breaks like there are in AEW, which is the TV is like very specifically allocated a certain amount of time and breaks that need to go a certain amount per hour that you just have to do, and you don't really have those time constraints in ROH. But I think there's also different expectations on the pay-per-view. You can program your pay-per-views differently. The ROH pay-per-views tend 3 hours, or more specifically 2 hours, 58 minutes, and 30 seconds, and then the AEW pay-per-views are 4 hours, or 3, 58, 30. So basically, you can do different amount of matches to some extent, and different concentration stories and matches, and bring in different international stars. And there's logistical things, you know, like we were just talking about with where the shows are shot, allows you to bring in different people who use different combinations of people. So going forward, I'll continue to utilize relationships in wrestling, international wrestling stars. We've seen a little bit of that. It was great to see Tommy come in. I think, and now we've got more opportunities to bring in more international wrestlers. And also, we brought up some wrestlers through ROH. They've gotten opportunities more so in ROH than in AEW, but I think in AEW now we've also got great stars who can continue wrestling in AEW, but also maybe cross over and make an appearance in ROH, like we've had with Willow here in ROH and also in New Japan, where she was a great, strong champion.
Kota Ibushi was here for Blood and Guts earlier this week. Did you ever have any discussions about maybe including him in tonight's show, possibly Collision tomorrow's, while it's still in the States?
I thought it was such a perfect thing for Claudio versus Pac. They know each other very well, and two of the greatest wrestlers in the world. I think Kota Ibushi just made his debut in AEW, and he'd be very quick to do that. And I think it was such a perfect match, and I think it made so much sense given what happened in Blood and Guts, Claudio versus Pac. It was very symmetrical that Pac was the one who walked out on Mox's team this week after Mox walked out on him in one of the first Dynamites, and you know, even against Hangman and Kenny, who were back together in this match. So a lot of things tied together in this great Blood and Guts. I thought it would be perfect given the tenor of the situation, maybe a miscommunication, that Claudio and Pac left it where I really wanted to see that as a one-on-one world championship match tonight on that before it's on.
Really quick follow-up, but it's interesting that you went there because I wasn't immediately thinking the world title match. I was just curious any match on the card, just utilizing him more while he's here in the States.
I thought you meant
Not
like,
specifically the world title match, just using him in a match.
well, I think like I saw a lot of people saying that would make a lot of sense. I think that would be a great match, you know, certainly with Claudio, and it was they were matched up in the Blood and Guts match. I think that would be a great match at some point, but for tonight, coming out of the Blood and Guts match, I felt like the natural match was Claudio versus Pac, and the way things left, and Claudio being the champion, and certainly he and Pac were very upset with each other at the end. Thanks. No, certainly I'd love to have any show we can have with Lucy on. I'm very excited about.
Congratulations on the fantastic show that we got to this tonight, and like we mentioned before, we had an amazing women's main event, and like you mentioned, ROH definitely targeted at a very sophisticated fan. So we've seen ROH do some daring things that some other promotions don't. We've seen them press hardcore matches. So my question is there a future plan of maybe narrowing the gap when it comes to the number of women's matches on the card versus the number of men's matches?
Well, I think it's both companies have featured great stars, great women's champions. For these pay-per-views, I thought the presentation was very strong. This pay-per-view, I think most of the Ring of Honor pay-per-views, Athena has now been involved in several great matches, but this was probably the best one yet, so it's very fitting it was the main event. Mercedes Martinez has been a great champion too in ROH. We've had some great women's champions in AEW. I think it speaks to the quality of the ROH women's wrestling that the main event tonight was one of the best pay-per-view main events we've ever had, and the show has all been great. It stood there with one of the great matches. So, you know, hopefully we can continue. You know, I think it takes a great rivalry and a great match to build to that. And really, I thought Willow and Athena earned the spot with the great match they had first on the second episode we ever did of the ROH TV. And after that great match, it made me think, like, that is a main event. That is potentially a pay-per-view main event. And this feels like a great rivalry to me. And it made a lot of sense for Willow, who has had a really big past week, winning the Owen Hart Foundation Cup. And last Friday, a week ago tonight, she wrestled Athena. linked up, and I thought it was fitting that we would then go right with all that momentum into this great trilogy, and both of them red hot, and Athena won the match, won the trilogy, but I thought both of them came out looking like great stars tonight and in all their matches and just in the past week. So really very, very excited about what that pay-per-view was, and I thought pay-per-view, certainly you have to start talking about it with the main event, and that was one of the ones that we'll always remember. So I felt like they really earned the spot with the work they did on TV, which is a huge part of pay-per-view wrestling, and it's in AEW we've had a lot of great matches too, and I'm sure if somebody in the rivalries reached that point where they're like the best match in the history of Dynamite, then it would be make sense for it to be a pay-per-view main event, because I thought we've done a lot of episodes of the ROH TV, and I think that one of the best matches, probably if not the best match on the TV show, was the first match in this trilogy, the Universe Willow match. Also a really great match on Rampage tonight. Was a great pay-per-view main event. So if something's one of the best matches in Dynamite history, or Collision history, then I would consider it for, hey, that's a big pay-per-view match, but I think, there's been stuff in that consideration before, so that's the thinking that goes into it.
Tony, my name is Anthony Cruz, publisher of the Capitalist Book Report. You had events in Atlantic City with AEW. You're going to be in Newark tomorrow, first time here in Trenton. What's your thoughts on using this market and having more events here in the future?
Well, I love being here. We've done a lot of great shows in New Jersey. It was great to have Ring of Honor in Trenton. It was a great crowd, and certainly I think we can come back here and do great numbers with ROH again or with AEW. And tomorrow we're doing Collision in Newark. It's supposed to be a great crowd. We've had a lot of great shows in the Prudential Center. It was very cool to be able to go to the Prudential Center this week. I was just in Minneapolis. I went from Boston for Blood and Guts and Red Eye to Minneapolis to be there. Is Josh Harris, the owner of the Prudential Center, and the Devils, and the 76ers, and now the Washington Commanders. And great to be there in person with my dad, as Josh got confirmed as the new owner, and of course he's the owner of the Prudential Center, so it'll be great to go to that venue tomorrow, and hopefully have a great show again here in New Jersey. Like you said, we've had awesome shows in Atlantic City. We already referenced what an awesome match it was with Shibata versus Orange Cassidy, with Mike Tyson on commentary for what was called the All Atlantic City Dream match, and I thought it was an excellent, excellent match. So I love coming up here to New Jersey, and I think Trenton has been a great site. Newark, Atlantic City, a lot of great options, and we'll keep coming to New Jersey for a long time for wrestling. Great fans here. Thank you.
Final few for Tony.
Rob Williams, the Pop Break. Tony, you mentioned the word opportunity over and over again. Piggybacking on what John said earlier, we saw Daniel Garcia and Willow Nightingale tonight get that tap on the shoulder, getting that opportunity. We've seen you do so much for independent talent with AEW Dark, with AEW Elevation, now with ROH. First of all, thank you for that. We've seen the Lady Frost.
I've always wanted to feature the top independent wrestlers, people on the cutting edge, and we've been able to make a lot of stars that way. Take people that have done well in the independents, also take people that were more, frankly, obscure as far as national recognition, and then package them up and have them be very successful, some of them champions in AEW, and now in Ring of Honor too. And I think there's a lot of people that came up that way. So whether in Ring of Honor, it's the Gates of Agony, or in AEW, Powerhouse Hobbs, the Acclaimed, and many others, and then giving opportunities to people who were heralded independent wrestlers like Eddie Kingston, Ricky Starks, Willow Nightingale, and a lot of other people. A lot of great people in AEW over the years with really good eyes that brought people to our attention. And when I've seen people, whether it was in AEW or ROH, that clicked with the audience, that clicked with the company, that made sense on TV and for pay-per-view shows, we want to give them those opportunities and put people in the spotlight. And that's something we have in common with AEW and Ring of Honor for sure. And I really appreciate you saying that, because I definitely want to keep the spirit of independent wrestling out there. AEW may be the world's largest independent wrestling company in many ways, but we're also the true challenger brand and an international powerhouse in the business, which is awesome. And there are places where we actually are the #1 wrestling company in the world in some markets, including the UK, which is one of the great markets, and some exciting things to come. Of course, I've been to ROH in the UK before, so that wouldn't be a first. But AEW's never been done a show in the UK or Europe, and I can't wait to go to London. Some very, very exciting stuff to come for AEW this year, and also I think ROH, we got great international partnerships, and tonight was a great event. Is anybody coming to Collision tomorrow? It's great. Well, I think it's going to be a really great show for Collision also. I really enjoyed it. It's been a new thing. I think the show has been excellent. Last week was probably, I thought, the best show yet. Some of the best matches we've had on the show, and some of the best matches we've ever had in AEW recently on Collision, and it's been excellent. Dynamite really clicking, #1 show on television on Wednesday on cable, and one of the top, I think, 4 shows on all of TV on Wednesday night. So Dynamite doing really well, and Collision now off to a great start. You're going to want to catch it from the very beginning. Excited to follow up. We had great Owen Hart Cup wins for Willow and Ricky Starks. I think Willow's after tonight, and the hard-fought match. She may not be available, but we'll definitely follow up and recap. And she'll be back. It's after a long match like that. To ask her to turn around and get in the ring might be a stretch, but she certainly will be involved in some kind of a follow-up and document her great win in the Owen Hart Cup final. And certainly Ricky Starks, I expect to start the show with his celebration. But I can promise you, I know for a fact, CM Punk will be there at Collision, and he's looking for a fight. You're not going to want to miss it. Tune into the start. It'll be a great show, I promise, and we'll still be announcing stuff, and it'll be a great card, I promise. So you're not going to want to miss it. Tune in from the very beginning. Collision is setting a very high standard, and I thought this was one of the best Dynamites ever. This past week, I really enjoyed the Royal Rampage. I think many of you physically probably have not seen the Royal Rampage yet, I'm guessing, and when you see it, you're really going to enjoy it. Check it out before you come in for Collision tomorrow if you can. And Collision's going to be great. And tonight, I thought was excellent. I'm very grateful to all the ROH wrestlers and all the staff that were here, and very grateful to the fans, and very grateful to the media. And I know all of us, I know I'm a wrestling fan working in wrestling, and I think a lot of you, even though you're professional media members, I think you're also many wrestling fans, and that's probably why most of you, I would imagine, got into this. And for me, as a wrestling fan, I really enjoyed this. It was not the easiest road to get here. It was a series of challenging decisions, whether it was changing everything out and telling Eddie, yeah, I want you to go to Japan, chase this, and I can't wait till you're back. And I think you'll be in even a stronger position when you come back, pun intended. And, then to lose Mark Briscoe to injury, which is just devastating to no one. I think it's not as bad as it could have been. Hopefully Mark Briscoe will be back sooner rather than later, because he's on an amazing run this year, and he's one of the greatest stars ever in Ring of Honor, Jay Briscoe, Hall of Famers, and Mark Briscoe is on a roll right now, and Jay Briscoe is so important to the legacy of Ring of Honor, and always will be. And of course, like I said, we're changing things around a little bit to accommodate, to make sure that Willow, who's going to be available to continue wrestling this past week, that she recovered from that hard-hitting match with Julia for the New Japan Strong title at Independence Day. All these things, and many other things nobody even really knows about. I think was waiting for Mark Davis to get cleared for his knee injury. We haven't really talked at all about the new Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions. I thought that 4-way match was excellent. Excellent match.
It meant a lot to have Shibata here. It means a lot what he said. I really take it to heart, like the compliments he made, nice stuff he said, but he means a lot to so many people in the locker room. And, that was another match where I think we wanted to have that press conference, that moment, Garcia disrespecting him and pinned him, and that was also worth the wait. I felt a lot of stuff on the show to get to the build of it. I would have liked to announce stuff or picked everything out sooner, and circumstances didn't dictate it that way. And I thought it all came together to be a really, really great show. But I'm really grateful, as I was saying to all of you. I hope you enjoyed the show as fans, and hopefully as media members, we were able to answer all your questions and treat you very well. And whether it was that great main event, some of the great action stuff down the card, or looking at main event was really special, and just Shibata, which is really special moment. So I just really appreciate you all being here tonight. Meant a lot. And like you said, I think it's a very sophisticated wrestling fan that would appreciate
great respect to Shibata for him to come in here, not having English as his first language and to get the kind of respect and to be able to have the kind of open